Hey guys, my name is Katie and welcome to my first video. So as you can see from the title, we're going to do a September wrap up and then we're going to get into my October TBR. So here are the books that I read this month. I read 4 books this month. Well, in the month of September because now it's October. And so the first book I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry. And this book follows Harriet and Wynne. And they were this couple who was engaged and they had broke up, but they didn't tell their best friends. And so like every year they've had this tradition where them and their best friends would go to this cottage in Maine that one of their friends' parents own. And they so their friends are telling them something important and they decide for the rest of the trip, oh, let's just like not tell them, like let's just fake it till we make it pretty much, until they're finding themselves sharing a room. And it was really cute. It's not very spicy, so if you don't like spice, you could go into this book. It has a couple little scenes, but it doesn't go into very graphic detail of what happens or anything. But I really love this book because of the comical essence. So it was really funny in my opinion, and all just like the little, so it goes back and forth from the past and to the present of their relationship. So they met back in college, and this is like taking place, I'm pretty sure, 10 years later into like their relationship. So they've all been friends for a really long time. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 stars, if I'm not mistaken. So now we're going to go on to the next 2 books that I read. They're a part of a series, and you have to read them in order. So the first book is If We Ever Meet Again by Anna Huang. And then the second book in the series is If the Sun Never Sets, by Anna Huang. So we're going to go into this book first. So it follows these 2 college students, Farah and Blake. They are studying abroad in Shanghai for a year. And so Blake was a star college football player, but then he quit. So they're just in Shanghai together. They have a little group of friends. And Farah initially doesn't want him, but Blake is that very flirty mentality type of guy and just keeps going for him and like is not giving up. Like he likes getting that rise out of her, and it pretty much starts off as a friendship and then into dating, and then something happens at the end of this book, which leads us into the beginning of this book. Like the end of this book shows you what happens, like the continuation. This book is 5 years after this book, but in the beginning of the book, I guess I could kind of tell you this because it happens literally, like it's the prologue. They break up in this book, but this is just their love story within that year in Shanghai. So they break up, but it gives you their whole love story, and then it goes back into the end of the book. And then that brings us into this book where it takes place 5 years later. Farah is interior designer, yes, and she gets hired by him because he made a mistake in the past and he really wants her back in his life. So he does anything in his power to just have her around him. So it takes place, they're both living in New York City, and she's just helping him with his apartment, and things go from there. He's just trying to earn her trust back, basically, the whole book. And I really love these 2 books. They were like really cute. There was things in the first book that was just like, no, like why? But overall, I read these books and they were just like giddy books to, like, if you just want to sit down and have fun. They're not life-changing books, but if you want to just sit down, have fun, and like let your mind go somewhere else, like these 2 books are perfect. I rated this book 3.75, and then I rated this one a 4 and this one a 3.75. Okay guys, so the last book I read this month, or in the month of September, was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This book is a single dad trope, small town trope, and it follows Ford Grant and Rosie. So Ford is a billionaire who recently finds out that he is a father, and Rosie was working in this big city. She leaves her big job, comes to here back to Rose Hill in her small town where she grew up, and starts working for Grant. And her and Ford have known each other for a really long time now. His dad is a famous rock star, and they would come down to Rose Hill to just get away from the big like celebrity life that his dad was. And they were growing up together for a couple of years. Every summer he would come down and they would all spend the summer together, and they played like that frenemies, like they were like friends but also enemies. She always thought that they didn't like each other because they always like play fighting with each other, but later on they start to realize maybe it was just a little more than being frenemies the whole time. But that's the last book I read this month. So I read a total, as I mentioned earlier, 4 books. And they were all like pinky and purple, which is really cute. Let me see if I can hold all of them. Yeah, so now let's just get into my October TBR. So now we're gonna get into my October TBR. This is more of a loosely TBR because I'm really a mood reader, and if I don't want to read any of these books this month, I won't. But I picked out these books because they are giving more like fall, October-ish, spooky vibes. Like it's giving that Halloween vibe. So I have 5 books here, and then there's one I don't have, but I will put the picture up. So we're gonna just get into it. So the first book I want to read is The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. Last year I read The X Hex by her. So this is like the second book, interconnected standalone, because this follows a different couple, but she's a witch, and I think the guy in this book is actually, yeah, they're both witches, warlock witches. I don't personally, sometimes I just pick up books and I'm like, yeah, I want to read you just specifically for the cover. And I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but you cannot tell me this book is not giving fall. Anyways, so now we're gonna get into the next book. This one is a fantasy, and it's called The One Dark Window by Rachel Gilling. Again, I don't really know what this is about, but let's read the back together and then we can get into it. So, Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mist-locked kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her, he keeps her secrets, but nothing comes for free, especially magic. When Elspeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, her life takes a drastic turn. Thrust into a world of shadow and deception, she joins a dangerous quest to cure Blunder of the dark magic infecting it. Except the highwayman just so happens to be the king's own nephew, captain of the most dangerous men in Blunder, guilty of high treason. A maiden must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom in this dark, lush gothic fantasy debut. Lush, not lust. So that's this book. It sounded really interesting, and I saw that I was reading it. I think it was like last year. I saw Sarah reading it, and I was like, that sounds really interesting. So, and if there's one thing about me, I am really like a romance reader to like my end. Like I love reading romance book. If it's between a fantasy and a romance, a thriller and a romance, I'm going to pick up that romance, but I'm trying to like branch off into fantasy as well. Like I've read a couple of romances, but I'm trying to branch off into just getting into the fantasy. So these next 3 books are romances. So the first one I have here is Sophie Lark's Kingmakers Year 1 book. This book is, all I know is about, it's mafia. It's a mafia romance, college. Like, if there's one thing, college romance, mafia romance, put them together. And I really like Sophie Lark as an author in general, so I was really like intrigued when I saw this book. So let's just get into the back. Bound by blood, torn by love. In the shadow halls of Kingmakers, a ruthless mafia university, the offspring of the world's most feared families come to master the dark arts of influence and intimidation. Leo, unwaveringly loyal to his childhood friend Anna, follows her into a world where love is a weapon, trust is a casualty, and survival is the only victory that matters. But the greatest danger comes from Dean Yenin, a Bratva heir with a vendetta as cold as his heart. Dean plans to destroy Leo and take everything he holds dear, starting with Anna. Can Leo win back his soulmate or lose Anna forever? I just love romance. And mafia romance, like what? And I really like the spines, like this spines that they're doing when they're like painted edges. Love. Okay, can we just talk about this cover? This is also by Sophie Lark. It's called Grimstone. Like this was just, I saw it and I was like, I'm reading that in October. I'm waiting for spooky season. So this follows Remy Hayes and Dane Covet. Dane is a hot doctor. So we can just read the back. Remy Hayes is beginning to think she's cursed. Her fiance cheated on her. Her brother Jude is a major pain in her ass, and the moldering mansion she inherited from her uncle might just be haunted. Flipping Blackleaf Manor already feels impossible, even before Remy is blackmailed by Dane Covet, the dangerously hot doctor next door and Grimslow's most eligible bachelor. If you ignore the fact that everyone in town thinks he's murdered his wife, Remy doesn't want to believe it, especially after Dane sews up a gash in her thigh and steals a kiss in payment. A kiss that makes it hard to walk for reasons that have nothing to do with an injured leg. But as the renovation takes a strange and violent turn, Remy must decide if Dane is the one haunting her nights or if he's trying to protect her from something much worse. It's giving dark romance. Like, what is like? If there's something about me, I will eat a dark romance up. But this one is like more gothic-y, and I feel like more like thriller type romance from like what I've read in the back. I haven't heard anybody that's read this book yet, but I'm really excited to read it. This actually might be my next book that I pick up, I think. So the last book I have, actually no, I'm lying. I have another book. I just don't have the physical book. Is Vicious by L.J. Shen, and this is also a dark romance. Like, doesn't fall and October just feel like the perfect dark romance month? It does to me. So we have this one. The cover is really pretty. So let me just read the back for you guys so we could both know what the book is about. I've read it, what it was about, and then it just completely left my mind. So we're gonna get into it together. So the man who comes to Amelia LeBlanc's in her dream also haunts her in her nightmares. Baron Vicious Spencer is a brilliant lawyer, a skilled criminal, and a beautiful liar. A bully, a savior, a monster, and a liar. And since her mother was the living caretaker for his family estate in high school, there was no escaping his wrath until she had another choice. Too vicious, Amelia is completely off limits. A starving artist, his best friend's ex-girlfriend, pretty and evasive as a cherry blossom. When they were younger, she barged into his life unannounced and turned everything upside down. She discovered his darkest secret and he made her pay the price, drove her out of town, hated and wanted her in equal measure. It shouldn't deter him from chasing her to New York a decade later, but it doesn't. So she still hates him. Big deal. She'll have to get used to him because this time he isn't going anywhere unless he's taking her with. Sorry, there's just something about like, I'm gonna chase to the ends of the earth because now you're gonna be mine whether you like it or not. It just gets me. But it's only in books because let's say like anything that happens in dark romance would happen in real life. It's just like, excuse me? Call the cops. But when it happens in a book, wonderful. I'm gonna eat it up every single time. Okay. Currently, I'm actually reading Shatter Me, the Shatter Me series. I'm on the first book, but I don't know if I want to jump into continuing to read the series for two reasons. First is because there's a novella between the first and the second book, and I don't have the novella, so I have to order that. Second, sometimes if I read series like straight through, it puts me in a book slump, so I'd rather just go back to my roots and just read romances in between and then go back. But again, we'll see how this book leads me because sometimes I'm say that and then I'm just like, no, I need to read the next book like now. But yeah. So that is it for my September wrap up and my October TBR. I'm hoping to do reading vlogs in the future and I really want to do a 24-hour reading challenge. However, I have school 3 out of 4 days of the week and my assignments have been like really heavy loaded lately, so I don't know if I have time for that. Maybe I'll do it at like a weekend and break it up like 12 hours one day and 12 hours another, but we'll see. But I definitely want to do a reading vlog. So thank you guys for watching my video. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.